Now that we have finished the doorway and it stays open quite well, we are ready for the bonus room. And you can see here, we have cleared out a lot of the bonus room already. I've put a bunch of stuff in the storage area here. That's working out great. We're gonna close the door and start working in here. I'm gonna put some plastic up here to prevent all the dust from going in to all the equipment in there. But you can see it's pretty much cleared out. Still got a little bit more to do, but it's enough to get started on. And what I am going to do here is the same thing that I did in the hallway on this wall here, is to get this wall done and then the other side so I can put the door up. I'm going to do the same in this closet area. This is a small space, but it does need to be finished just like everything else. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this room off completely, including the front side of this wall right here. The only reason why I'm going to do that is to put that door in so that gets out of the way. When I put that door in, it was so bulky. When I moved it over to here, it really opened up the space and just got a lot of the, big bulky furniture pieces out of here. The same thing's gonna happen here. When I finish this off and actually place it on the door there, we'll just have a lot more space to work in and go from there. So, plus it will allow me to use this place, the space rather, as storage while the door is shut and sanding all this drywall down. So that's the plan. We're gonna go in there first. I'm gonna start sanding in a few minutes here, and then I get this completed. Now the sub project within here is to get the ceiling done first. So we're gonna sand everything down, definitely sand along the edges here, and then put some joint compound on the corner seams, paint that with the primer, and then paint it with the ceiling paint. And the only reason why I'm doing that is so I can get the second ceiling light in, the flush mounted ceiling light in, and then it's already be hooked to this outlet over here. And then I'll have light in here to work. So we're gonna finish this first, then within here, we're gonna finish the ceiling. So that's the plan.
The first sanding's all done, right behind me. Yeah.
I've completed all of the sanding, at least the first level of sanding in this little closet area, including the outside and this side wall. It only took an hour and a half to complete, which I was extremely pleasantly surprised about. I thought it would take a lot longer. And I attribute that to a couple of things. Number one, it's a small space, so there wasn't a whole lot of sanding to get done. But the other thing that I learned is less is more. I mentioned this in a real earlier video where you don't need to use gobs, if you will, of joint compound on the seams. Just a thin layer, at least for this first coat and the second coat, of course, to get the tape on. And because I did that on all of these seams, I was able to sand through that very quickly. And the seams, as you can see, look pretty clean. They're straight. There's not a lot on each side. There's enough to get a 6 or 8 inch knife to go over it, and with a second coat, a third coat if I need it. The corners look nice and clean. So we are in a good spot with this room right now. So I'm gonna call it a day for sanding on this because I need to go to the big box store and pick up some stuff for that. And we are going to need to mix a new set of joint compound right there with some water in it. Got the tool in there to mix it somewhere. And I want to start that fresh on a bright early morning. It's late in the afternoon right now. The sun is still up, looks fantastic. But I've accomplished what I wanted to get done today. So we're gonna clean up, move out, and we will give you an update here on the next one. I have started the joint compound in the bonus room and it is going very well. In fact, if you look closely, I've got straight lines for the joint compound where I'm putting it. Up on the ceiling and just below it, it's pretty good for a second coat. You can see some of the tape is still showing through, so it looks like we're gonna have to put a third coat of joint compound down as a skim coat to cover that. But it's looking really good. One of the things that I did correctly on this particular piece is I mixed up that compound with enough water to make it fairly thin, but enough to keep on my tray over there. And it just happened to be the perfect consistency. So I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Plus, if you look at the corners here, not a bad straight line all the way down, and it's really smooth if you can get a good look at it here. So there's not going to be a lot of sanding on these corners. And I had mentioned before that I was just going to do the ceiling first, paint that so I can get that lamp in, or that ceiling light in, and I think I'm going to pass on that. This is going pretty quickly in here, so I think I'm just gonna do the whole room at once. We'll prime it. You know, we gotta fill in these gaps on this door with my pink plastic wood, and then we'll paint it just like we did this wall over here. And then we'll put the light on after. And then onto the door after that. But that is another update. So we will give you more updates as we go along, and we will talk to you soon. I've got the second coat of joint compound on all of the seams, and for the most part, they went on pretty well. I've got a couple of areas where I got a little bit sloppy. You can see here, I went a little bit wide on that seam here. And in the closet itself, on this angled pitch here, you can see some of the ridges where I went up and down instead of left to right with my knife. And that corner there, that seam, was a little bit of a pain to get joint compound in. I don't know what the problem was, but it just didn't work out today. So we're just gonna sand all that down. I just put a bunch of compound up there, and it looks pretty good. It's not bad, but it's gonna take a little more work to sand all that down. Everything else went pretty well. The seams went really nice on, as you can see on that corner there. This corner here went on pretty well. That's the first coat, and we are going to put a second and probably a third one on, maybe. We'll see how that turns out. And then we were able to finish up on the top here. Those went on really well. You can see how straight those are. And that pretty much covers it for where we are with the closet. So now I just have to wait for all of that compound to dry, and then we'll start sanding that out in the next day or two. And it'll give me an opportunity to move on to another part of the project. So we'll give you an update pretty soon here. I have finished the final coat of compound all around the closet, including the corners and then a few spots on the inside. And if you look at this corner, it turned out really smooth. You can see I've got a very straight line here, and I put that compound down and just got to wait for it to dry, and then I'll sand that piece down in the next day or so. Had to come back through and patch a few spots here. The corner bead was actually showing through, and we don't want that. So once that dries, we'll sand it down and it should be smooth. On the inside here, I've gone through and filled in all the holes with my favorite pink plastic wood around the door, and we're just gonna wait for that to cure and dry, and then we'll sand all that down. One thing I did notice, there are a fair amount of finishing nails that are sticking out. I'll have to take a nail punch, put those through, and then we'll fill it back in with some wood plastic. And then on these walls, I did a pretty good job cleaning up this corner here, this angled wall. And it's not perfect, but again, it's a closet and no one's gonna notice it. I'll look at this as practice for the outside here. We had to clean up that piece there. I did my little trick where I had to create a larger hole and I patched it with another piece of drywall. I've done several videos on that, but just clean that up. Once that dries and cures, we'll sand that down. And then there were a few holes here that I had to patch up that I noticed that were shrunk down, and you see the little divot, so we just fill those in, and I'll sand those down once it all dries. But overall, I'm real happy with the way this closet has turned out, and I actually got it done pretty quick. It was, I think, less than a week or right at a week, that we were able to sand everything down or put compound up and then sand all of it down. And it's going to look pretty good once we're completed there. The last piece that we did, or I just thought of, is this door. Originally what we were going to do is have this door have the handle here and then swing out this way. But then I just realized I'm going to be losing all that space. And you can't use the space against this wall for anything really. So we're just going to flip the door around and it's going to swing inside like it probably should. The handle will be here. It'll swing inside up against this wall and we should be good to go. The only thing I did notice is that if this door is open and this door is open at the same time, you overlap about an inch or so, if that, maybe an inch and a half. That should not be a issue at all, because 99% of the time we're not going to have that door open, as that will stay closed. That's where all the utility stuff is for the HVAC. So most of the time it'll just be this door open on the inside and expose the closet. So I think we're just going to make that change and I gain all this space back. So with that being said, we are going to close this update out as it is now dark again. And the next step here is to start on the caulking on the corners and then prime this outside and inside of that closet. So that's where we stand. We will start that on the next video, but until then, peace out.